testing of coronavirus in private laboratories. Senior advocates of Nigeria Femi Falana and OCJ Okocha disagree over executive order of Rivers State government on the foreign scene. 19 sailors die in accident involving Iranian naval vessels in Gulf of Oman. And now the details. The Minister of Health, Osage Ehanire, has revealed plans by the federal government and the Federal Ministry of Health to get the Madagascan herbal cure to COVID-19. Ehanire made the disclosure while briefing newsmen at the Presidential Task Force briefing on COVID-19. He noted that the plans is to get the herbal product and subjected to analysis to see how it works and how it is used. The minister stressed that all countries are interested in fighting a cure or finding a cure to the deadly COVID-19, and Nigeria is also looking at all options. He added that before the Madagascan cure can be used in Nigeria, it will be examined to make sure they are safe and they work. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control has announced an approval for private laboratories in the countries to commence COVID-19 testing. Director General of the NCDC disclosed this during the briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. The NCDC boss also disclosed that the guidelines for the private laboratories who are interested in testing for COVID-19 will be published by the agency's website.
What we did throughout this weekend, looking at the response and finding ways to improve it. One way we're going to improve it are new guidelines of integrating private sector labs into the laboratory architecture. So we've now come up with guidelines for this. So every private sector lab that wants to join the COVID testing can go pick up this guidelines that we're going to publish on our website tonight, look through it, define what they need to do to be able to join the network, and we will support them through that process. This is one bit of what the changes that we continue to make every day to improve the response.
In Rivers State, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has described the action of Governor Nyesom Wike on the demolition of the two hotels in Eleme local government area of the state as a colossal embarrassment to the Nigerian Bar Association. Falana spoke in an interview with our correspondent, Victor Ezeama. The senior advocate of Nigeria said no executive order gives any governor in Nigeria the power to demolish the property of alleged offenders.
It is unfortunate that these developments are taking place in Port Harcourt, where the governor of the state is a senior lawyer, and not just a senior lawyer. I'm even informed that he's a member of the body of benchers. That is an embarrassment, a colossal embarrassment to the Nigerian Bar Association, because under our law, the Quarantine Act does not permit the demolition of a house by an alleged offender. Whoever has breached the law will have to be charged before a court, will have to go through a trial and be convicted by a court of law before a sentence can be pronounced. There's no provision, no governor, even the president has no powers to take the law into his hands and then begin to mete out punishment to citizens who has not been found guilty by a court of law in our country. So we hope that the governor will be properly advised to revive these illegal decisions and, publicly apologize and restore the properties of those that have been destroyed. Everybody will have to go through a normal judicial process. That is what the rule of law is all about.
Falana also advised victims of the governor's actions to immediately approach the court to seek redress. The senior lawyer also advised the Rivers State House of Assembly to call Governor Wike to order.
No law allows a governor to become the maker of the law, the enforcer of the law, the accuser, the witness, the prosecutor, and the judge at the same time. It's not part of our law because it is primitive, and we're operating under a civilized system of government which is anchored on the rule of law. It's perhaps to call the governor to order. The governor will have to be called to order through lawmaking process. The governor cannot be higher than the law. It cannot be higher than the constitution. I expect that the Attorney General will try and enlighten the governor accordingly.
Meanwhile, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Chief OCJ Okocha, has backed Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike on the demolition of 2 hotels in the state for flouting the lockdown directive. The senior advocate of Nigeria advised anyone who is uncomfortable with the executive orders to approach the courts. The senior lawyer lauded the steps taken by the Rivers State government to fight coronavirus as well thought out and well advised, stressing that the steps will help check the spread of coronavirus. The state governor, Wike, was right to have demolished the 2 hotels, giving the several warnings to hoteliers not to operate within the period. Okocha, ISAN, advised Rivers people to be patient with the state government in its effort to contain the spread of the pandemic in the state, and also observed the necessary protocols put in place to fight COVID-19. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has continued to receive criticisms over his policies in this fight against COVID-19, including demolition of 2 hotels in the Lemeluko government area of the state. Senator Magnus Abe, in a reaction, warned that Wike's measures to fight the spread of coronavirus will prove counterproductive if he fails to give his policies a human face. Abe, who represented Rivers Southeast Senatorial District in the 8th National Assembly, said the war against the pandemic is fundamentally about collective humanity and therefore must be fought on strictly human and just terms. Senator Abe, in a statement, said the demolition and auction of private property, the closure of all sources of survival for citizens of Rivers State without the consideration to their means of sustenance in the name of the battle against COVID-19 are draconian measures that will prove counterproductive in the long run. Similarly, the Rivers State governorship candidate of Advanced People's Democratic Alliance in the last general election, Ezekiel Warigbani, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to, with immediate effect, declare a state of emergency in the state. Warigbani said the call became necessary after careful examination of the numerous happenings in the state, including Governor Nyesom Wike's directive that there should not be a gathering of more than 2 persons, which he said is a sign of his lack of respect for family unity. Warigbani, who is also the national president of the Green Nigerian Foundation project, while commending the government for some of the measures to curb the spread of coronavirus, however, said some of the orders of the government are baseless. Warigbani also condemned the move by the governor to auction some properties of some alleged offenders of the lockdown.
Dear compatriots, declare state of emergency in Rivers State now. We carefully examined the numerous unholy happenings in Rivers State, cross-examined the leadership and managerial acumen of the sitting governor of Rivers State, Barrister Nyesom Wike, and arrived that the order by Governor Wike, which directs that on no account should there be a gathering of more than 2 persons, is a sign of his lack of respect for family units. Every family unit in Nigeria is at least 6, a man, his wife, and 4 children or more. This order is therefore unthoughtful, unnatural, and baseless.
However, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, Dr. Eric Obi Thomas, has cautioned against those calling for protest over the demolition of 2 hotels in the state by Rivers State government. Dr. Obi Thomas made the call when he appeared as a guest on Today FM's current affairs program, Today's Hustle. Dr. Obi Thomas, who is also the director of Total Health Care Medical Consultant Hospital, said most of the people calling for protest are outside Rivers State. He urged Rivers people to remain patient as the state government continues to fight COVID-19.
People calling for riot from outside the state, that is my major worry. People who are calling from other states, from other countries, that youth should go to the streets. If there is pandemonium, disorder, then government attention will be distracted. And then the issue of distance and all the social area of coping the transmission will be broken. The fact that it has happened, because people should keep deaf ear to people who are calling for riot, they are saying that people at Rivers State, they are not talking. People are talking. We are here. We know what is happening. So we should not listen to people who are saying that you should go to the streets. Please. And in fact, they are not even from Rivers State. Some from US, some from neighboring states. What is your business? If you look at the social platform, that is what is happening. Please, Rivers people, this is a temporary situation. It cannot continue to be. COVID-19 has started. It must have an end. So let us use this period to see however the government will manage it. I will give a suggestion, but we should not take the law into our hand and then cause mayhem.
In the meantime, the leadership of Community Development Committee in Rivers State, through its chairman, John Onwubuali, has vowed to resist any attempt to stage any protest in the state following the state government's action. In the meantime, the owner of the demolished Prudent Hotel in Eleme local government area of Rivers State, Gugurubari Nidam, has dismissed claims by Governor Nyesom Wike that his hotel was operational during the lockdown directive. Nidam, in an interview with correspondent Uchendo Ijowo, said his hotel has been shut down even before the lockdown was announced by the governor. He said he is still consulting with his families, friends and other stakeholders, after which he will determine the next steps to take. You are listening to the World News on Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People. After the break, more news, foreign and sports stories. Stay tuned.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today 95.1 FM.
You're still listening to the World News on Today 95.1 FM, the Voice of the People. The Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, has said the state government requires the support of organizations and the people in the fight against COVID-19. The governor said this when Total ENP made further representation to support the state government's fight against the spread of coronavirus. He said that the relationship and organizations should continue well after the COVID-19 pandemic. Total Exploration and Production Limited commended Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike for his proactive approach towards tackling the coronavirus pandemic, saying that the nation would have had reduced cases if everyone acted like Governor Wike. The immediate past publicity secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Chris Finebone, has challenged Governor Nyesom Wike to show Rivers people one achievement of the current lockdown in the state. Finebone said a lockdown where there was no increase in testing, contact tracing and fumigation of markets and public places is a waste of time. Finebone, who was reacting to the temporary easing of the total lockdown in Obiakpo and Port Harcourt City local government areas, said there would not be any need for another lockdown if nothing would be achieved with it.
Well, as Governor Wike temporarily eases the lockdown in the state, I would like to implore him to please inform the people the achievements of the last lockdown. The reason is that the general belief by majority of the people is that it was a wasted exercise, and their reasons are that any lockdown in which testing is zero, contact tracing is zero, and fumigation of markets and public places is zero, then the lockdown is a colossal waste of time and resources, especially for closed businesses and suffering on the people. Now, if none of these things will be achieved in future, then there will be no need to embark on another wild goose chase or embark on a trip to nowhere at such great cost and inconvenience to the people.
In the meantime, as the temporary easing of lockdown takes effect, the authorities of Degema local government area, Tony Fillmore, has cautioned Degema people to be alert and safety conscious as they prepare for the easing of lockdown by the state government today, Tuesday and Wednesday. While thanking the state governor for easing the lockdown, Fillmore reminded Delgans that the fight against COVID-19 was far from over, adding that the disease lurks unseen at unexpected corners, waiting for whom to devour. The council boss therefore emphasized the need for people to be on guard, taking all safety precautions as they go out to fend for themselves and restock their homes with food for the second phase of the lockdown. He said countries like China and South Korea that had almost defeated COVID-19 were reporting fresh outbreaks of the disease after a few weeks of easing lockdowns, adding that one could never be too cocky with COVID-19. Fillmore warned that the federal government's curfew of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. was still in effect, as well as bans on public gatherings and other measures put in place by the federal and state governments, adding that the council would not hesitate to sanction any community, persons or group of persons that flout these orders in Degema local government area. Governor Wike had announced the temporary easing of the lockdown in Obiakpo and Port Harcourt, saying all shops, supermarkets and malls would be open to the public, while hospitals and banks should also provide full services to the public. The Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, PHEDC, has debunked reports on social media that it is threatening to switch off power supply in Rivers State. Manager Corporate Communications, PHEDC, John Uyi, said PHED is a major player in the electricity industry and will not embark on any action that will cause displeasure or discomfort to its customers. Uyi assured that the electricity company will continue to offer necessary support as much as it can during this period of COVID-19 pandemic, and also appeal to all security personnel in their area of operation to accord their staff members all required support to enable them perform their essential role in providing electricity to all.
PHED, like we said in that release, has never contemplated switching off power supply in Rivers State, and indeed any other of our franchise area. We saw the viral social report as a surprise, and that was why we quickly issued a statement stating our stand. As far as we continue to receive power supply from TCN, we will do the same. We distribute same to our customers. So, in a nutshell, PHED is not contemplating switching off power supply in Rivers State. It was just an imagination of the writer, and the PHED is surprised and continue to work together harmoniously with our various stakeholders.
The PHEDC spokesman also told our correspondent Ifunaya Obemendukwe that the company's officials who were arrested during the lockdown have all been released from the isolation center. On the foreign scene, the 54-day strict lockdown necessitated by the coronavirus has been officially relaxed. However, many restrictions were due to remain in place. French people will now be able to leave their homes without carrying a signed declaration as to why they are on the streets, and most shops and other workplaces are set to reopen. The government also said primary schools would reopen gradually starting this week, with middle schools reopening the week after, only in areas less affected by COVID-19. The government said face masks would be required on public transport nationwide, and travel restrictions remain between mainland France, the Mediterranean island of Corsica, and overseas territories. And in sports, Premier League clubs have received a boost to their hopes of completing the season as the government published a roadmap that could see the return of elite sport in England from June 1st, 2020. As the 20 English top-flight clubs met with further talks on Project Restart, ministers announced plans to ease the coronavirus lockdown. Under step 2 of that process, which cannot begin any earlier than June 1st, sporting events would be allowed to take place behind closed doors for broadcast, while avoiding the risk of large-scale social contact. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he believed the return of sports on TV would provide a much-needed boost to national morale. To end the news, here's a summary of the major stories. The federal government has revealed its plans to test the efficacy of the Madagascan organics to cure COVID-19. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has approved the testing of coronavirus in private laboratories. We also told you that senior advocates of Nigeria, Femi Falana and OCJ Okocha, have disagreed over the executive order of the Rivers State government. And on the foreign scene, you heard that 19 sailors have died in an accident involving Iranian naval vessels in the Gulf of Oman. That was the news as edited by Victor Ezeama. For comments and inquiries, please call 081-5341-8657 or 081-4434-3502 or send your emails to news@todayfmlive.com. You can also read our stories on www.todayfmlive.com. Do not forget, take responsibility. Wash your hands frequently with soap and running water. Avoid touching your face and high contact surfaces to prevent coronavirus. I am Wisdom Obina. Good morning.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
This is Today 95.1 FM. To copy this tune, press 9.
This is Today 95.1 FM.
For current news and information, press 5.
They are politicians, all of them. They know what they do.
So they know how they attack each other.
To stay connected all day, press 1.
The person who raised the alarm is the one who made the public know about.
Good afternoon and welcome to the World News on your Premium Talk Radio station.
We are your Premium Talk Radio station. Today 95.1 FM, the station with a unique dial.
Coronavirus, they kill person. E no know language, e no know age, e no know wetin be your color, abi wetin be the level where you get for society. E dey take mama and papa from children. E dey take children from mama and papa. In fact, e dey separate best friends sef. The coronavirus dey real o. Make you wash your hand all the time under water wey dey run for tap with soap. Use a hand sanitizer where you no see water where they run for tap or soap. No go places where people plenty o, and make sure say you dey give people gap. That one where Oyibo people they call social distancing. If you want cough inside tissue paper or handkerchief. Make you quick throw away am o. If you feel say your body they do you anyhow, abi your body they hot pass normal, and you get sore throat, or you they find them difficult to breathe, abi you they cough, your cough na dry cough. Quick call the COVID-19 helpline where they for your state o. Make we join hand together pursue this coronavirus come out for our land. This message now from the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC.
Welcome to the Peak Breakfast Show, brought to you by Peak Milk. Good morning and welcome to the Peak Breakfast Show. Now, of course, this is the show where we talk about the amazing success story of some of the world's biggest and some of your favorite sports stars. We do this because we want to inspire you to be better and to be driven on the way to the peak of your career, because as Peak Milk always says, it's in you. You can listen to the show every Monday and Friday on the station and at this time as we bring you different success stories of some of the world's biggest sports stars. The show is brought to you by your favorite nutritious Peak Milk, which of course contains 28 vitamins and minerals, including vitamin B1, B12, and iodine. On the show, we always present you with the success stories of one big sports icon in our Peak Personality of the Day segment. And then, of course, we also get into the Peak Productivity Tip of the Day before we wrap things up with the Peak Milk Recipe of the Day. We'll go on a quick break. When we'll come back, it'll be time to start off with the Peak Breakfast Show. Stick around.
He's my son.
Hey, I know, Mama. He's also my husband.
Some people say wives and mother-in-laws don't get along well. They obviously haven't met my wife and my mom. They are practically like sisters.
Hey, Mama, you know that new shiny George material? I bought one for you and one for me.
And me, I've already seen 2 new shoes for both of us that will match.
Oh, Mama, thank you.
Wait, who's paying for it?
You, of course.
See what I mean? But if there's one place they are very different, it's in their choice of Peak Milk. While my mother likes Peak Filled for me, please, because it has low cholesterol, while my wife prefers
Peak Full Cream for me, honey,
because it's rich and creamy. So, whether it's Peak Filled Milk with its low cholesterol or Peak Full Cream that's rich and creamy, choose your Peak today.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Good morning. Did you have your Peak breakfast today? Whether you're Team Peak Full Cream, who love their milk rich and creamy, or Team Peak Filled, who prefer their milk with low cholesterol, choose your Peak today. Preparing breakfast can bring up quite a few choices, like these ones. Would you prefer to have toast bread or tuna sandwiches? Would you prefer to have pap over oats? Would you rather have cereal or a nice steaming cup of coffee? Decisions. When it comes to breakfast, choosing the right nourishment matters. There are those who prefer milk that's low in cholesterol, who readily go for their favorite Peak-filled milk, and there's also another set of people who love their milk rich and creamy, and they go for the Peak Full Cream milk. So you ask, how will I know the difference? Well, that's quite simple. Just take a look at the bottom right corner of the pack. Every Peak Full Cream milk pack has a golden swirl at the bottom right corner, while the Peak Filled milk packs have a blue swirl at the bottom right corner. They also come in small sachets, evap tins, and large pouches. So whether you're Team Peak Full Cream who love their milk rich and creamy, or Team Peak Filled who prefer their milk with low cholesterol, go ahead and enjoy your ever-nourishing Peak milk however you choose. Reach for your peak.
It really gets me going.
And listen to the Peak Breakfast Show. Welcome back. It's time to get started with the Peak Personality of the Day right here on the Peak Breakfast Show. And on today's edition, we'll be talking about a footballer who ran the right wing for the Super Eagles for many years and was regarded as one of the best in the world at his job. This is because, of course, he played on that wing with consistency and devastating effect. His name is Finidi George. Born on April 15, 1971 in Port Harcourt, Finidi George played for Calabar Rovers, Iwanyawu National, and Sharks of Port Harcourt between 1989 and 1993, and then of course he moved on to join Dutch giant Ajax of Amsterdam. His impact in Holland was immediate as it led them to the Eredivisie title after making 27 appearances in his first season, and then of course the following year, in addition to winning the league and the Johan Cruyff Shield, which they defended, he appeared in the final to help the club win their fourth UEFA Champions League title against Italian giants AC Milan. As a result, he became the first Nigerian alongside teammates Tijani Babangida and Kanu Nwankwo to lift the much coveted trophy in Europe. Finidi's influence grew in the team thanks to his tenacity, consistency, and excellent displays on the wing, so much so that he displays the much renowned Mark Overmars. After appearing once again in the UEFA Champions League final and winning a third consecutive league title, he moved to Spain where he joined with Real Betis, and of course there he banged in 38 goals in 130 appearances. He would go on to feature for clubs like Real Mallorca and Ipswich Town before hanging up his boots in 2004 at the age of 33. In between these experiences, he had a stellar national team career with the Super Eagles, which started in style back in 1991. In the match against Burkina Faso, which was an African qualifier in Finidi's very first game, he laid on 3 assists for the one and only Rashidi Yekini as Nigeria routed Burkina Faso 7-1. His moment of glory, though, came in the 1994 African Cup of Nations, where he helped Nigeria to win a second title. Now, later that year, he was also part of the squad which represented Nigeria at the World Cup for the first time in USA. At that World Cup, in Nigeria's last group stage game against Greece, Finidi George scored one of the 2 goals that ensured that Nigeria won by 2-0, qualified for the knockout phase at the first time of asking, and also finished top of that group. He went on to represent Nigeria at the 1998 World Cup, as well as 2 other African Cup of Nations, where he took home a silver and bronze medal. In all, Finidi George boasts 3 league titles, an AFCON title, the UEFA Champions League title, the UEFA Super Cup, the Intercontinental Cup, as well as several other cup titles as well. He will always be remembered for his pace and energy and consistency after appearing 62 times for the Super Eagles and scoring 6 times. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, it'll be time to continue right here, of course, with the Peak Breakfast Show. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, when I just start this my mechanic work, me and my oga, we be like cat and mouse. Every time, not so shout.
Moshudu, ready 10-11 flats now.
As time con dey go, me and my oga, we con gel well. When we watch ball, na the same team we dey support. If we walk on chop, na the same kind food. Especially Shaki and Bokoto, we get PhD. But on top all our kulabo, our milk dey different. As my oga, they like pig filled milk, ready for blue sachet. It don't get low cholesterol. Why me? Atanda Gidigba on top pig full cream milk where they rich come they creamy well. Make yourself begin to choose your pig today.
Peak. Rich for your peak.
Good morning. Did you have your peak breakfast today? For milk that's rich and creamy, choose Peak Full Cream Milk. And for milk that's low in cholesterol, choose Peak Filled Milk. Whatever you do, choose your peak today. When it comes to most things in life, people are often divided into 2 categories. Take writing, for example. You're predominantly left-handed or right-handed. If you play football, your left foot is either your predominant feet or it's your right. Of course, there are also those who can use both hands and feet efficiently, but everyone falls on one side or the other of the line. This also applies to other aspects of life, like your eating habits. For example, you're either one of those who pour their cereal in before adding milk, or you're one of those who add the milk and then pour the cereal in. But if there's one area where people are classified into 2 distinct groups, well, it's in how they prepare their breakfast. While some prefer to use their Peak Full Cream Milk that's rich and creamy and has a golden swirl at the bottom right corner, there's another group of people who love their Peak Filled Milk that's low in cholesterol and has a blue swirl at the bottom right corner. That's why Peak Milk has 2 distinct variants. The Peak Full Cream Milk that's rich and creamy, as well as the Peak Filled Milk that's it's low in cholesterol. Both of them come in small sachets. You can also get them in evaporated tins and large pouches. That way, when you choose any size that suits you, you can be rest assured that you're getting quality nourishment from Nigeria's #1 dairy brand, Peak Milk. So go ahead and choose your ever-nourishing Peak Milk today.
Peak Breakfast Show.
Success, motivation, nutrition. Welcome back to the show. Let's get into the peak productivity tip for today right here on the Peak Breakfast Show. And of course, a few weeks ago, we brought you a productivity tip about notifications on your mobile phone and just how distracting that can be. Today, we're bringing that back, but we're being a bit more specific. Now, while you're at work, be it in the office or these days working from home, you always feel like you need to check on your emails and, of course, respond to emails. But the truth is, constantly checking on your emails is actually a distraction. So how about you have fixed periods where you take a look at your emails, and every other period you're trying to focus on being actually productive as opposed to going into your emails and possibly getting distracted. Of course, we all get important emails every now and then, but the truth is they don't come all the time, and so you're wasting your time and not being as productive as you can be if you're constantly checking up on your emails. So have a fixed period of time, first thing in the morning when you get to work, probably at midday, again in the late afternoon, and one more time before you close. That way, you're keeping your energies focused on where they should be rather than responding to correspondence that might as well be waiting. All right, that's it for the peak productivity tip. Let's go on another quick break. When we come back, it'll be time for the peak recipe of the day right here on the Peak Breakfast Show.
Some people say wives and mother-in-laws don't get along well. They obviously haven't met my wife and my mom. They are practically like sisters.
Hey, Mama, you know that new shiny George material? I bought one for you and one for me.
Wait, who's paying for it?
You, of course.
See what I mean? But if there's one place they are very different, it's in their choice of peak milk. While my mother likes
Peak Filled for me, please.
because it has low cholesterol, my wife prefers
Peak Full Cream for me, honey.
because it's rich and creamy. So, whether it's Peak Filled milk with its low cholesterol or Peak Full Cream that's rich and creamy, choose your Peak today.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Peak Breakfast Show. A little bit of everything you need to reach your peak. Welcome back to the show, guys. Let's get to the peak recipe of the day. And today, we're telling you how to make peak apple cake. Now, of course, don't get carried away by the complicated name. It's actually very easy to prepare and highly nutritious. Here are the ingredients needed. You need 2 apples, 4 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 cups of flour, 1/4 cup of peak evaporated milk, a half cup of vegetable oil, and lemon zest. Now, here's how to prepare. Peel and blend the 2 apples. Next, mix the eggs with sugar and baking powder, flour, milk, and oil using an electric hand mixer. Add the blended apples and mix with a spatula to incorporate the apples. Pour the batter in a cake pan and bake for 30 minutes at 180 degrees. And then, of course, serve with powdered sugar. That's it, guys, for the peak recipe of the day, the peak apple cake. Again, here are the ingredients needed. 2 apples, 4 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 cups of flour, a 1/4 cup of peak evaporated milk, half cup of vegetable oil, and lemon zest. Of course, remember that the best way to enjoy your peak apple cake, or indeed any dessert, is to always have a cold glass of Peak Milk. On that note, guys, it's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Remember, you can always stay in touch with Peak Milk on social media, on Twitter @Peak Milk, and on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Peak Milk. Until we come your way again, keep taking your nutritious and delicious Peak Milk. Thanks for listening to the Peak Breakfast Show, brought to you by Peak Milk.
95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. This is Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt, voice of the people.
talk football. Let's talk football.
What a devastating strike!
Football is a leisure game.
Sports is actually my job.
Football is boring.
That's not true. It's way more important than that.
What a wonderful goal! Fantastic strike!
As far as I'm concerned, sports is all about passion.
Sports Attack, weekdays 7:30 a.m. and today's Sports Live 3 p.m. Weekends 1 p.m. to 6 p.m.
For all you need to know in the world of sports, leave the dial on Today 95.1 FM.
For the best and most incisive sporting reports, tune in to Sports Attack on Today 95.1 FM every week morning at 7:30 a.m. My name is Daniel Igale, President of the Nigeria Wrestling Federation. I also listen to the show.
A beautiful morning to you all out there, and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Attack on your premium news talking sports radio station, Today 95.1 FM, right here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. It's Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. My name is Wisdom Obina, and I'll be bringing you up to speed with all the latest and trending sports stories making the rounds in the ever-exciting world of sports. Without further delay, let's get the show started. Well, we start with basketball this morning, where the Nigerian professional women's basketball forward center, Evelyn Akato, has spoken out on the videos trending on social media, where she's seen teaching people on exercising and staying fit. The Tigress star, who was drafted by the Dallas Wings of the Women's National Basketball Association as the third overall pick in the 2017 WNBA draft, believes the current period is not about anybody as an individual, but about us as a people.
One thing to stay, one of the things to stay sane is by working out, keeping yourself busy. So yeah, I try to I don't know who I know is following, but I try to come on live video and just do some workout routine and also try to talk to them about staying safe, just being me, I know it is hard. It's hard for me too, I'm not really used to staying indoor and working out, but I'm learning that right now. So, it's all about being your brother's keeper and just now in this pandemic, it's all about we, not I. So I'm trying to do that as well,
The Tigress have been very successful in the past 24 months, winning the AfroBasket tournament and also qualified for the Olympics. Akator was asked if the fire they had before the pandemic would still be on after the issues are over, and she had this to say.
It's all about us, It's our Z and our enthusiasm. I don't think it definitely will die off. Now, it's the energy. We have the energy, so we bring the energy, not So it's I think last week or so we had a Zoom meeting and everyone was just happy, seeing each other once more on video call and all that. So that's the energy, that's the energy I'm talking about. So when we come together, there's a different vibe, a different energy, and I think it's definitely going to be there.
All right, from there, we move on to the NBA, where basketball great Shaquille O'Neal says the NBA should scrap the season because of the coronavirus pandemic. The 2019-2020 campaign was halted in March with 5 regular season games and 2 months of playoffs remaining. Everybody go home, get healthy, come back next year, said 4-time NBA champion O'Neal, who now works as a television pundit. To try and come back now and do a rush playoff as a player, any team that wins this year, there is an asterisk. That's Shaquille O'Neal right there. We'll move to cycling, where Olympic champion Anna van der Breggen will retire next year and become a coach with Boels Dolmans. The Dutch rider will try to defend her road race title at the rescheduled Tokyo Olympics next summer before ending her racing career. Compatriot Chantal van den Broek has announced she will retire in the spring of 2022 to take up a coaching role with the team. And to boxing we go this morning, where Evander Holyfield appreciated Mike Tyson blazing a trail that he could follow towards the World Heavyweight Championship and suggested a charity fight with his old rival. Tyson caused a storm with footage of himself training and insisted, "I am going to box some exhibitions and get in shape." And now Holyfield has stated that, talking to Sky Sports, that he wants a third meeting with Iron Mike. Asked if a charity match could be arranged, Holyfield had this to say.
I don't know. I think that you would have to ask him. Because my whole thing is that I wouldn't ask nobody to do something that they didn't want to do. But then it's a charity. If we can come up together and, we both just have to be the people that people like. And, if we can work something out that it works for everybody, then it's a win-win-win.
Tyson previously said, "I want to go to the gym and get in shape to be able to box 3 or 4 round exhibitions for some charity stuff." Holyfield won both of his professional world heavyweight titles fights against Tyson in 1996. He caused a major upset by stopping his rival in the 11th round. A year later, in one of boxing's most controversial moments ever, Tyson was disqualified for biting off a chunk of Holyfield's ear. Anthony Joshua is next. Well, he and Kubrat Pulev have 3 weeks to finalize the location for their world title fight, with Britain and Croatia on the current shortlist, says the Bulgarians manager Ivaylo Gotsev. Britain's unified heavyweight champion was set to face Pulev at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on June 20th, live on Sky Sports box office. But the fight has been postponed due to the coronavirus, and alternative options are being discussed by promoter Eddie Hearn and both fighters. Gotsev, who guided Pulev towards the second world title shot, held a recent conference call with their promotional team, Top Rank and Matchroom Boxing boss Eddie Hearn, to discuss possible venues in a range of countries that would be suitable to stage the WBA, IBF and WBO title fight after the pandemic. We've given ourselves 4 weeks to explore any and all opportunities that are there for the fight, Gotsev told Sky Sports. Eddie Hearn has spoken to you about the Middle East, which is a great possibility. It makes sense because these countries were not as hard affected, and if we take the right precautions, we could really have a safe environment. That's something I want to emphasize, and I can't say it enough times. Safety first. We don't want to take a risk, or we don't want to take a risk against anyone's health. No way, no how. That's Ivaylo Gotsev. We hope to see how that one pans out. Maybe in the next 3 weeks or so, we're going to get to hear the venue for that big fight between Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev. In golf, golf courses in England can reopen from tomorrow, subject to safety protocols, with the government also suggesting people will be allowed to play tennis and basketball with those from their own households. From tomorrow, the public will be permitted to play golf alone or in a 2-ball with another member of their household. That courses that can prove they can follow the return to golf protocols laid out by the R1A. And in tennis, 2-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova and Pliskova's sisters and other top 100 Czech players are set to clash at a tennis tournament in Prague on May 26 to 28, organizers said on Sunday. This is the first event the Czech Tennis Association has prepared for players at a time when they can't travel because of the pandemic. Tournament spokesman Karel Tečkal said in a statement. In Formula One bosses are in talks with the government seeking an exemption for staff from the new requirement for international travelers to self-isolate on arrival into the country. The government's document says there will be a short list of exemptions to these rules, which will be kept under regular review, but it does not specify what they are. F1 needs its staff to be exempt if it plans to start the season in Austria at the beginning of July. Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced on Sunday that air travelers into the UK would soon be forced to self-isolate for a 14-day period after arrival. In the meantime, one man who is in England and understands the situation is Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton. He believes races without spectators are not ideal, but worthwhile if it means the season can start.
It gave me a really empty feeling because the fans really make that race. And then, it's just, around the world, all the races we go to, the more fans there, the more atmosphere you have. That's why you have places like Silverstone and Monza. And so it's going to be very empty. But what's great is, I get messages from people around the world who are struggling during this period because they're not getting to watch sports. and it just shows how significant sport is in people's lives. You know, it brings us all together, and it's so exciting and captivating. And so I don't know how exciting it's going to be for people watching on TV, but it's going to be better than nothing. But as I said, for us, it's going to be like a test day, and probably even worse than a test day.
All right, that's all on other sports. Let's now switch our attentions to the exciting world of football. Well, Heartland goalkeeper Ike Chukwueze was called on the LMC to end the 2019-2020 league season due to the growing number of COVID-19 cases in the country. Ezenwa, who is also Super Eagles goalkeeper, said the LMC should award the MPFL trophy to Plateau United, who are currently topping the league table, to avoid players converging together in this critical period of COVID-19 pandemic to play football. If you give me the chance to be LMC chairman for 2 weeks, I will end the MPFL league season and declare Plateau United, who are currently at the top of the league log, winners of the MPFL. Other top teams will be giving the ticket to represent Nigeria at the continent. It is dangerous to expose players to the game of football at this period. Health is wealth. It is important for one to stay healthy. The Nigerian Football Federation President, Amaju Pinnick, has disclosed that the Federation appointed Joseph Yobo as assistant coach of the Eagles to prepare for a future role of the team's manager. Pinnick noted at the weekend that the leadership role displayed by Yobo when he was the captain of the Eagles motivated the NFF to appoint him as a member of the team's technical crew. He maintained that Yobo's appointment would contribute to the development of the Eagles as the team looks ahead to qualify for the 2021 African Cup of Nations and the 2022 World Cup. Quoting him, he said, "When Yobo was captain of the Super Eagles before he retired, I saw inborn leadership character in him. His charisma and the way he carried all the players in the team was exceptional. Yobo is a born leader. This is why the Federation decided to appoint him as one of the assistants in Super Eagles team. We are looking up to Yobo to manage the Super Eagles in future, and being part of the team's technical crew will give him that opportunity to coach the Super Eagles in the nearest future." Having committed his international future to Nigeria over England, Arsenal centre-back Joseph Olowu is aiming to make his debut for the Super Eagles. Born in Ibadan on November 27, 1999, Olowu is not age-eligible to represent the Flying Eagles at the 2021 FIFA Under-20 World Cup and the 2024 Olympic Games, so his first appearance at international level has to be with the Super Eagles. On playing for the Super Eagles, Olowu said in an Instagram live chat, "It is something I've always looked forward to, so I don't think I would be overwhelmed. Of course, I'll be very excited and very grateful for the opportunity, but I would not let that affect how I perform. When the opportunity does come, I will take it with both hands and just show what I know I can do and enjoy it for sure." Meanwhile, Genekaro Etebo says Victor Osimhen must be assured of enough playing time before joining any top European side in the summer. The 21-year-old is expected to leave Ligue 1 club Lille during the summer transfer window, with Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur, Real Madrid, Barcelona jostling for his signature. Etebo admits his compatriot has the attributes to excel in any league in the world. Osimhen is a good player and one that you can rely on at the moment and for the future, Etebo said during an Instagram live chat. He has done absolutely well in Ligue 1 this season and has been consistent in the last 2 seasons, which is also good for his confidence. He must be assured of regular playing time if he joins a top team in the summer. He has the attributes to excel at Real Madrid or Barcelona. Osimhen has scored 18 times and registered 6 assists in 38 appearances for Lille this season. In England, Manchester United legend Gary Neville has advised Ole Gunnar Solskjaer against the purchase of Odion Igalo this summer, as he doubts the Nigerian is worth £20 million. The 30-year-old signed for United on deadline day in January in a shock loan move from Shanghai Shenhua, and the move drew criticism, particularly as Solskjaer had been keen on Norwegian wonderkid Erling Haaland. However, Igalo silenced his doubters with a string of fine performances for his boyhood club, and Solskjaer is keen to make the move a permanent one after the Nigerian scored 4 goals in 8 appearances. Is Igalo worth £20 million? Said Neville. Probably not in this market. He may have been if he continued before scoring goals, but you probably don't need now to spend £20 million. United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward insisted last month that the club are not immune from the financial impact of the virus and said there will be implications at Old Trafford like there will be elsewhere. The DFB Pokal semi-finals will take place on June 9th and 10th, with the final scheduled for July 4th. The new dates are confirmed by the DFB Presidential Board were confirmed by the DFB Presidential Board yesterday, with the competition having been indefinitely suspended last month. German football is set to return behind closed doors on Saturday, following a long shutdown enforced by the coronavirus pandemic. Holders Bayern Munich are due to host Eintracht Frankfurt in one semi, with FC Saarbrücken taking on Bayer Leverkusen in the other last four. The final was initially slated for May 23rd at the Olympia Stadium in Berlin. And in Spain, La Liga President Javier Tebas hopes Spain's top flight will restart on 12th June and says coronavirus tests will mean practically zero risk to players during games. The league said on Sunday that 5 players had tested positive for the virus across Spain's top 2 divisions. La Liga started testing players last week as it plans to resume training and play matches behind closed doors. I'd like it to be June 12th, Tebas told Movistar, but we have to be careful. It will depend on many factors such as a potential rise in infections, factors which don't depend on football but on Spanish society. The risk during games will be zero or practically zero because the players will be tested with only a 5% possible failure rate 24 hours before. And still in Spain, this time in Madrid, Eden Hazard was pictured training with Real Madrid as Los Blancos cranked up preparations for a potential La Liga resumption next month. It has been an injury-hit debut campaign for Hazard, who joined from Chelsea in a big money move to the 2019-2020 season. The Belgian forward fractured his right ankle during a 1-0 defeat at Levante in February, having recovered from a similar injury sustained in a Champions League clash against Paris Saint-Germain in November. But Hazard was back in training yesterday, with the Spanish top flight having been halted in March due to the coronavirus pandemic. Sergio Ramos, Gareth Bale and Marcelo were also shown on Madrid's Twitter account, with several others included in a gallery on the club's official website. A Madrid statement read, 2 months later, the squad has returned to training pitches at Real Madrid City. Well, let's move over to England, this time focusing on the resumption of the league. Top-level sport in England could restart behind closed doors from June 4th, but spectators may not be able to attend venues until a vaccine is found. The government's roadmap for exiting the lockdown imposed to limit the spread of coronavirus was published yesterday afternoon, setting out the conditions under which various activities can be safely carried out. Step 2 of the roadmap, which cannot begin any earlier than June 1st, includes permitting cultural and sporting events to take place behind closed doors for broadcast while avoiding the risk of large-scale social contact. The Premier League says the preference is for all clubs to be able to play home and away if the competition resumes next month. Premier League shareholders discussed Project Restart during virtual talks yesterday, following the government's new guidance on lockdown restrictions. Top-level sport in England could restart behind closed doors from June 1st, but spectators may not be able to attend venues until a coronavirus vaccine is found. The government and UK's top football police officer have suggested that games should be played in neutral venues, but that plan was opposed by many relegation-threatened clubs. Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters says it is the preference of all of clubs to play at home and away if possible. Former Bournemouth, Southampton, Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Jamie Redknapp has voiced his concern about the safety of Premier League players returning to training ahead of the crucial meeting on Monday about the resumption of the current season. Stakeholders from all 20 clubs did meet on Monday to discuss the timetable moving forward in light of Boris Johnson's statement on the coronavirus lockdown. But with a third Brighton player testing positive for COVID-19 over the weekend, former Liverpool and Tottenham midfielder Jamie Redknapp admitted if he was a player, he'd feel nervous about returning to training due to concerns over safety.
I think players need assurances. I think it's vitally important that when they do go back to training, that they feel completely safe when they go back, and make sure that everything is in and the environment is ready for them. Because right now, I don't think the assurances are there. We're talking about a global pandemic where hundreds of people are dying every day, and now we're trying to talk about players going back to full contact, and it's not as easy as that. I am really nervous about the season getting started. I think clubs obviously have their own agendas, but a lot of them will be thinking, first of all, let's get safety first. Let's make sure that the environment is right for everyone to go back. And if we can't guarantee that, how can we guarantee playing football? They're already having problems in Germany, and I've got no doubt that we're going to have problems when the Premier League resumes. Nobody wants to see football back more than I do. Absolutely love it. We need it. We want it to lift the nation.
Virgil van Dijk's meteoric rise has seen him secure a Champions League winners medal and acclaim as Europeans' football best defender. But the Liverpool defender is adamant this is just the start of his journey from his self-professed struggles in the lower reaches of the Eredivisie. His development from a boy into a man to getting a taste for trophies in Scotland that culminated in bringing the biggest prize back to Merseyside. Each step has proved crucial in molding the Dutchman into the player he is today. Now, in an interview about his early struggles, although he stated that he has never done anything on a revenge mission, despite being overlooked in his younger days, the man stated that playing for Celtic was really an experience worth the while, but insisted that whatever he's doing now, he has never been on a revenge mission against those who overlooked him in the past.
Well, no, I've never had the feeling that, I will show you, I will try to, prove people wrong. I think especially, when I arrived at Groningen, I started in the under 23s. I wasn't starting in the first team, but, we were living in like an apartment, block where other players lived as well. And then I remember in pre-season, they went all to the first team, and I was the only one of, our little group there that went to the under 23s. So I had a feeling like, all right, I need to work harder than these guys, and I want to make my debut as soon as possible. And I didn't have my driving license at the time either, so I had to take the bike every day. So it was tough. But, I think with all these small things that, happened to me, made me who I am today, I appreciate everything that's been happening today.
The Netherlands captain also spoke of the experience that he gained from playing for Celtic as it reshaped his career going forward.
Obviously, people, I think, sometimes still underestimate how big Celtic is. European football, and I've spent two fantastic seasons there. I've learned a lot from in a football way, but also in life. Especially the European nights was outstanding. Made me gain a lot of experience how to deal in certain situations against certain strikers, and also the league. Obviously it isn't the hardest league in the world, but it is a league where everyone expects you to win, and that's something you have to do with as well. And that was something new for me too, because Willem II, with all due respect, are never is never the team that everyone expects to win.
All right, Man City owners signed the news this morning. Lomel SK have become the latest club to be acquired by the City Football Group. CFG, headed by Abu Dhabi United, was founded in 2014 after Sheikh Mansour took over Man City in 2008. Since completing that acquisition and turning City into the dominant force in the Premier League, CFG has taken over Melbourne City, Montevideo City Talk, New York City, Mumbai City, and Girona. That's in Spanish League. Additionally, CFG also has stakes in Sichuan Jinhui and Yokohama F. Marinos. Those are clubs in Japan. The group has now expanded into Belgium, taking over the second-tier club, renowned for a strong academy and focus on youth development. And in Italy, Atalanta midfielder Andrea Rinaldi has died at the age of 19. The Serie A club have confirmed Rinaldi suffered a brain aneurysm last Friday and was taken to hospital. Legnano, the Serie D club where the player was on loan, described the news as a sudden and shocking tragedy, impossible even to imagine. The club president Giovanni Munafo said Andrea came to training and at first came to greet me. This is a memory I will carry in my heart. Rinaldi joined Atalanta's youth system at the age of 13 and won the Scudetto and Supercoppa with the under-17 side in 2016. AC Milan stars Zlatan Ibrahimovic returned to Italy yesterday after 2 months in his native Sweden as Serie A prepares to resume group training in a week's time. Ibrahimovic was photographed arriving in Milan wearing a face mask and gloves before being driven to the team's training center at Milanello. The Swede is expected to spend 2 weeks in quarantine before joining the teammates who got back to individual training last week, with group training set to start again on May 18th. The 38-year-old returned to Sweden on March 12th, days after the Serie A was suspended as the coronavirus pandemic swept through Italy and Europe. And on that note, we call it a wrap on today's edition of Sports Attack. The sports crew will be back 3 p.m. God willing, and of course the show makes a return same time, same station tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. in the morning. But before that, as I said, we'll be having today's Sports Live by 3 p.m. this afternoon. My name is Wisdom Obina, your Superman in the world of sports. As always, keep it locked on this dial to the FM 95, the rocking one.
Been this good. Today, 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt, are you ready? Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people. Radio has never been this good. Today, 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.